What is up, guys? Welcome back in. My name is Mountaineer Paul. I am your co-host. This is College Sports Insiders along with Jackson Johnson. We welcome you into another episode of the show where we are dying to scream about the Michigan in the Michigan situation. Obviously, it's really cheesy. I have discovered sounds on StreamYard. Now I can have emphatic pauses and things. But in all seriousness, on today's show, what we're going to be talking about is obviously is Michigan a stepping stone job now? That it maybe stepping stone job is a bad wording, but is it a job that guys go to, they win big, and it step up to the league, right? NFL, NBA, that's two straight coaches you've had win natties and do that. Not a bad thing, but also not a really good thing either. Like if I could have a coach win a natty and move on up, I would still take that, but it would still be frustrating if it kept happening. And obviously, Warde Manuel, I think he's a guy that you could look at and say, is he under some fire right now? I think so, considering the many scandals that he has had to deal with at this point. So it's like you're taking some bad with some good on him. And obviously, we're going to detail the Dusty May situation and how he got here. Jackson, how you doing today, bud?
I'm doing all right tonight. How you doing tonight, good buddy?
Doing good, man. Thank you for suggesting this video. And obviously, I went to doing homework and should be fun. We'll get into it, detail a lot of it. I think I have most of what we need to kind of go through this. Obviously, I'm not a Michigan insider, but I have been following this situation closely, as a lot of you have, as we try to cover all of college football over here, all of college basketball over here. This hits us right in the teeth because for many reasons. I think we all have had those situations happen where your coach wins big, moves on, and you're left feeling kind of crappy in the meantime. And so there needs somebody to blame. And Warde Manuel is that guy right now, Jackson. And, you look at what he's done there over the last decade or so. Okay, so is he losing Michigan? I guess is the question I have, because the larger indictment is probably, why did Jim Harbaugh leave? Why did Dusty May leave? And why do championship coaches keep leaving Michigan at this point? So, obviously he gets there in 2016 is a former Michigan guy, player, and was supposed to stabilize the department. Instead, over the next decade, he oversees some of the biggest scandals in college sports, the Mel Pearson hockey investigation and firing, the Juwan Howard controversies, which I remember, the NCAA in football investigations, which have been many. Obviously, we can't forget the Connor Stallion stuff, Harbaugh, Dusty May. Like, there's a lot. So I'll detail some of these things here. We're going to start out with the hockey thing. Was probably the first major black eye, and maybe there are others that I'm not even aware of. But, it was Mel Pearson, led to one of the premier programs in the country at Michigan. As we all know, they're a great hockey school. Mistreatment of staff, retaliation against players, toxic workplace culture, allegations involving treatment of female employees, and an outside investigation commissioned by Michigan found significant concerns inside the program, and he was ultimately fired. Manuel was criticized for complaints that had existed for a while there. Michigan had appeared to be reactive rather than proactive here, as well as why did it take the outside investigations so long to force action? He did get some praise because he authorized the investigation. He didn't protect the coach that had won so much there, similar to what happened to Bob Huggins, I think, at West Virginia. And then once the findings were found and delivered, he was removed. But at that point, it was a public thing. There was no way to cover it up necessarily. So the praise was essentially he cleaned it up, but the criticism was, why wasn't it caught sooner, Jackson?
Well, honestly, others argued, he authorized the investigation. He didn't protect the winning coach, like you said. And once findings were delivered, Pearson was removed. So the praise was he cleaned it up, but the criticism was, why wasn't it caught sooner? That's the thing.
Yeah, that was not obviously that was the first one. You get to the Juwan Howard stuff from 2022, I think it was. And a lot of fans began turning on him after this because Well, I mean, you look at that one. I mean, it was obviously. I think a lot of us thought Juwan Howard was the perfect fit there, and unfortunately, just didn't happen. It was a big name that just didn't work.
It was like the Scott Frost of college basketball, where everybody was glad it happened at the time.
Yeah,
Then the moment it happened, it was okay. This is not working out.
right. You're talking about Scott Frost in Nebraska, right? Yeah.
Mhm.
And then obviously he had struck the Wisconsin assistant during a post game altercation.
Oof.
That was
February 2022.
Yeah, we all remember that. He was suspended but retained, and some people thought that was a bad idea. So the additional sideline outburst and behavioral incidents around Howard continued over the next couple seasons. And so Manuel was obviously criticized here for people felt like Juwan Howard was being treated differently because he's such a legend. The discipline inconsistent. You fired this coach for things that were really bad. These things are really bad. Why isn't he being fired? He didn't win anywhere close to as much as that guy did in hockey. And the athletic department kind of kept giving him chances, but the argument kind of became like any coach would have been fired in this situation. So I think at the end of the day, he got the praise because some people saw it as a good thing to give Howard an opportunity to correct his behavior. And he was, kind of attempted to balance that accountability with also supporting a legend in the program and not, ostracizing him from the program by just tossing him out, like what happened to Bob Huggins again. That relationship is irreparable at this point. So obviously you've got Howard dismissed after basketball performance declined, and it was just a bad hire, right? So I think that's another decision that probably not only should it have happened earlier, but I mean, it's just, goodness gracious, Jackson,
I mean, if it was any other regular coach, they'd have been fired in a heartbeat like that.
right.
But like you said, because he was part of the Fab Five in the 90s, like a legend, part of that Michigan brand, right? And he was the last player active in the Fab Five, playing in the NBA. He got a lot more slack than other coaches did, right? Because if it was anyone else, there's just some random guy, they would be out on their butt, like thrown out the building. But, that's one of the main criticisms that Warde Manuel got, was keeping Juwan Howard way too long. And I think luckily it basically took an 8-win season to kind of make him realize, okay, I'm keeping this guy a little too long. Maybe I'm cutting him a little too much slack. But also, I wonder if he didn't have an 8-win season, would he have kept him way too long? That's my question.
Right. Yeah. You're giving a Michigan legend some grace, right? That's kind of what it seemed like he was doing there, Jackson, to me.
Mm-hmm.
And was it enabling?
Oh yeah.
I don't know. For me, I think potentially so, but I wasn't there. That's another thing. Like, this is another one of those situations where it's like tough, but that wasn't it. Obviously, you've got the what about the Burgergate situation? Good Lord.
God.
So yes, it sounds funny until you realize what happened. Michigan football was having these recruiting violations during the COVID dead period. And they were relatively minor violations, like obviously NCAA's thought that Jim Harbaugh was not completely cooperative. And I understand that. This is like, it was a small recruiting case and it turned into a major thing. Like, Michigan should have handled that better, right?
Agreed.
They should have settled way earlier. And the department basically allowed a dispute to drag out for a long time. And it just became the story that wouldn't die. And yes, you stood behind your coach as Warde Manuel, and you didn't surrender the NCAA pressure. I 100% get that. And a lot of people supported Manuel's approach here because Harbaugh was who he was. But turns out that was probably the wrong thing to do. And once again, when it came time for your coach to support you after winning a natty, he's bounced off, gone.
Mm-hmm. Gonzo. And some of that NCAA stuff was most definitely overblown, but Michigan kept just giving the NCAA openings. That's the issue. Great athletic departments don't keep stepping on rakes.
Does that remind you of a funny cartoon of some sort?
Oh yeah. It just kind of feels like watching a Tom and Jerry cartoon where it's like Tom just keeps bumping into the rake, stepping back, bumping into the other rake. I mean, that's what it feels like.
Then you got to get to the Connor Stallion stuff and sign stealing scandal, which was insane in many ways. And I want to say this, by the way, I'm a Michigan supporter. I am not I hate Ohio State with my entire being. So just by that nature, I'm going to like Michigan. Always have liked Michigan. I don't like that they've gotten our coaches, Rich Rodriguez and obviously John Beilein. That sucks. But outside of that, I've rooted for Michigan in sports just because I've always liked their kind of mystique of their brand. Like if I was ever going to root for a blue blood kind of school, which I've never really done that, Michigan would be one. I just like them. I think they're cool. Like the colors, like the helmets, the whole vibe they have. So much cooler than Ohio State, like to me. But also, I hate Ohio State. Did I mention that? I hate them.
Oh, I think you did.
I hate Ohio State with a burning passion deep inside my soul. I hate them worse than I hate Pitt. I do, as bad as Pitt, probably. And it's probably because as a West Virginia fan that moved to Southern Ohio when I was a teenager, I had to live with Ohio State fans. And oh my God, dude.
They got pretty cringe.
You ever try to bring up that time your team almost won the national championship in 2007? Around an Ohio State fan that's got we've been to the national championships, and it's just like you can't bring anything up around them. They've always been better and done better. And so the greatest night of my life, I thought, was in watching Ohio State and Miami in the national championship game. And then the pass interference call didn't get called. And Ken Dorsey didn't get the call. And so Ohio State defeated Miami, and my friends ran out into my yard and celebrated while I sat there and looked at the TV in disgust. So that's like the birth of it, Like I can't even remember why I was hating on Ohio State that day exactly coming in. I think it may be in a bet or something. I mean, I was like 16 at the time. So either way, back to the Michigan stuff. The timeline is absurd on this. The initial reports in 2023 came out in October, Jackson. Michigan staffer Connor Stallions obviously purchased some tickets across the country and obviously organized kind of an advanced scouting operation because of that. More than 50 games were scouted. Future opponents were definitely targeted. Video footage was definitely collected, and Stallions appeared on the sideline of the Central Michigan game disguised as staff. Like, it was pretty wild, some of the different things that they were able to pull off here. And you look at, Manuel obviously responded to the Stallions immediately, and eventually he resigned, Stallions did. But
yeah,
it got worse because Chris Partridge was fired. Harbaugh was suspended by the Big Ten. The NCAA investigations obviously were expanded onto Michigan even more. And ultimately, Michigan received major sanctions and financial penalties. And some people thought maybe a death penalty was coming down the pike there, but there's no way you could kill
there was
Michigan.
never going to be a death penalty.
No, but some people thought maybe, Obviously, I don't think that's going to be the case, but some people thought maybe
probably
at the time.
Some dudes on that YouTube channel, Buckeye Scoop, thought that, but that was that was all they talked about.
Yeah.
I swear it lived rent free in their heads. But like the Connor Stallion situation, I'm not expecting Warde to have binoculars in scenes, but if a staffer is just could allegedly build an operation that big, no one upstairs catching it, there's an oversight problem right there.
Yeah. Yeah. That's definitely 100% right, buddy. And it was an oversight issue for sure. Um, look, how could a rogue operation of this size exist? It was like the core argument for me. Like, how can something that big exist within? And why aren't compliance controls catching it? Why did the scandal emerge from the same football program? Like, why? Like, this is the second or third, like, scandal after scandal after scandal. The same scandals are emerging from the same program under you. And eventually, the NCAA described a culture that was dismissive of the compliance oversights. So I think that's what it was. Like, they just never thought they were doing anything wrong, basically. So obviously, there were people in support of this. I mean, Michigan felt attacked. They were like the Texas Tech of the day at that point in time, Jackson. Is that a good comparison, maybe?
Yeah, because I mean, like, they were considered to be like the most hated team in college football at that time.
Yeah.
And that title, just kind of changes every 3 months, basically, at this point.
Yeah, it'll be Miami or Penn State or somebody else next.
Then next month it's Notre Dame, or next month's LSU, and so on and so forth. You definitely get where we're going with this. But Paul, there's a lot of things I could blame Warde Manuel for, but I can't blame him for Jim Harbaugh. And here's why. Because he always had his eyes on the NFL. The moment he was going to get Michigan to a national title, the moment he was going to break that threshold just in the drought of the playoffs, in that Big Ten title drought, in that natty drought, he had eyes for the NFL. I mean, he had eyes for going back to the NFL in February of 2022 when the Vikings opened up.
Right.
And he was like, yeah, until Kevin O'Connell said, not so fast, I'm taking that with me. Because, I mean, Jim Harbaugh, it basically had to stick in his craw a little bit, which, I mean, he ain't going to say it. But, I mean, like, hearing about John Harbaugh, that Super Bowl from a decade plus ago, that's definitely sticking in his craw. And Pete Carroll getting a Super Bowl before him, that's sticking in his craw. I mean, because he had a great run at the 49ers. And, he came
probably would have won a Super Bowl with him had he stuck around there.
Exactly. But, the moment he won that natty, he was back in the NFL. Not a matter of if, but when and where it was going to be.
Yeah, I mean, look, I get like Harbaugh is the NFL guy. I mean, he spent most of his career there as a quarterback and different things, but you got to have the perfect gig. I mean, a Michigan guy. You're a Michigan man. You get the Michigan job. You've got some of the deepest pockets in all of college sports, maybe the deepest. If push comes to shove, Michigan's definitely in that conversation. You've got, it's a lot of pressure. I get that too. But man, what a gig that you just kind of gave up for the NFL, which I get some people would say was more prestigious, but I don't know. It was a tough time for them. And Manuel, like, obviously on the subject for him, he was, the supporters would say, like, he didn't fire Harbaugh during the investigation. He fought publicly for Michigan. He kind of kept the program together during the national title run. And so to supporters, at least he defended Michigan. To critics, he protected Michigan. Two different things. One thing to support, one thing to protect and enable. And I think those are the interpretations of the same actions, the way I read them. And that's we just got into Harbaugh leaving for the NFL in 2024, Jackson, or 3?
It was after the 2023 season.
2024. Okay.
Yep. In January 2024.
So obviously they won a natty, and Harbaugh left for LA. I want to say San Diego so bad, but
I know, right?
I think Manuel, they thought Manuel had Harbaugh locked into a long-term extension, right? Like that was a big part of contention here. Where is this extension? Like, why isn't this, and here we go. And so the relationship between Harbaugh and Michigan was never really very good, we find out. and the distractions kind of helped push him towards the NFL. A lot of people thought he was leaving before the big things happened at the time, and others kind of saw it as like maybe he's keeping, maybe nobody was going to keep Harbaugh from the NFL, Jackson. I think at the end of the day, especially after a title. And I think Manuel hired and retained him through difficult periods. He did. I'll give you that. And obviously accomplished the ultimate goal. And you got to give him you got to give him all credit for winning a national title under those scenarios, Jackson. Because I mean, Harbaugh wanted the NFL for years. It's no secret. Like he wanted that. But to win a natty during that time is pretty amazing. Even for Manuel, I have to give him credit where it's due, even if it was sour taste at the end with Harbaugh leaving.
Yeah. I mean, there's no doubt, but it's a shame Michigan also pretty much let that relationship get weird for years. But, I think that, it didn't help, obviously. And, we do have a question from Austin Williams. If Harbaugh had stayed another year at Michigan, would he have stayed if they didn't win it all after 2023? I think
I don't know that the Chargers job comes for him if he doesn't win it all necessarily. Like, is he the number one choice if you don't win it all? Like maybe he still is, and then that's the moot point. But I would say that because he won it all, he became such an attractive choice at that point. Because if you lose the last game of the year, it takes some of that shine off. Maybe they go a different direction, or maybe they had their eyes on him the whole time. It didn't matter. I don't know the answer to that. I'm not an insider, like I said, but I would say, I would imagine that there would be a much better chance anyway that he would return the next year had they lost. But you still kind of have to feel like he was looking for a way to the league. And clearly Jim Harbaugh was the best coach in the sport. I mean, he proved that while he was at Michigan. Whether you agree with how they did things or not, like outside of Saban, he was the guy. And I think, he proved that and would have continued to win at a very high level at Michigan. Not even close. They would have probably had another national title or maybe even two, since they would have had it rolling. They could have been the next Alabama. I really do believe that had he stayed. And obviously it was going to be a rough period after everything that happened, and you just kind of wash your hands of it. But if they'd have got through that, I would not be shocked at all if during this NIL era, Michigan's got one of the best stadiums in the sport. They've got some of the best facilities in the sport. They've got some of the deepest pockets in the sport. They've got top 3 or 4 history in the sport, and he's the top 3 or 4 coach in the sport. You got the top 3 or 4 assistant pool for money in the sport. You play in the Big Ten, one of the 2 best conferences in the sport. It's just check mark after check mark after check mark. So, yes, it's an elite job. It's an elite place to play in the Big Ten and everything. So I think, you wouldn't have to sell me on it. And I don't understand how coaching at Michigan is better than coaching at LA outside of the weather. Like, that's maybe the only thing you can – maybe the NFL is just that better of a job because of the nature of it. The pay is a little better, I think. But, not only that, it's just coaching pros way different than coaching kids. I get that too. Maybe Harbaugh is better suited to that.
Yeah. And you're not having to decide on punishments on the players. The general manager could do that for you.
Right. Yeah, you just kind of coach ball. And that may be what happened with Harbaugh. He seems like a sicko when it comes to just coaching ball. Maybe that's what he just wanted to do, and all these other distractions just kind of soured him on Michigan. It's definitely like I don't – please don't take this the wrong way, but I'm going to use a very tough example. I was in a relationship with a girl one time, and it was a great relationship. And unfortunately, we had some bad things happen. She was robbed at gunpoint one night, and had a miscarriage as well. And so this beautiful relationship we had fell apart because of all these outside things that influenced it. It wasn't us. It was just life and circumstances that made it erode. And sometimes that's what happens in any relationship, like a Harbaugh being at Michigan. And I'm not saying these two things are equal at all. I'm not. Trust me, I lived it. I'm just saying that generally the metaphor is outside influences can impact things and kind of make them take off that shine that you once loved. And I think that was this situation here. You remember when Harbaugh went to Michigan, they had the 5-star, the whatever event it was they had. I remember, I'll never forget. It was like his first signing day was this big 5-star event that they had. They got a bunch of 5-star players. I remember that. I was thinking, man, I was looking at our list of like 3-star guys, and I was like, man, how it must be nice to be Michigan this year. But wasn't jealousy on my part, as much as like, dang, West Virginia maybe one day, But at the end of the day, that was a tough loss for them, and very fair criticism. I think Harbaugh wanting to go to the NFL though was always going to win out. So let's move on to Dusty May here, Jackson, and then we'll get into some of the things you had to say to me off camera about Manuel, just generally that you had to say, because obviously the Dusty May situation here in the Mavericks rumors began on the 4th, from what I can tell, about 20 days ago was when the first little rumor I had seen about this happened, where they said the Mavericks were interested in industry titans like Dusty May and John Shire and others. So clearly they were trying to make a move for an elite college coach. Initially, their move was kind of viewed as this big home run, as Dusty May was going to replace Howard. And I think it's become even more than that. Dusty May to Michigan is one of the greatest coaching hires of all time. I think you could put in a vacuum, you can say that. What he did there in a couple year span is incredible. They've always been a good basketball school. He turned them into the best basketball school in the country in a couple years.
Man.
Incredible. And the way that they do things from a recruiting standpoint, the way that they did things from the portal standpoint, I mean, they were the first roster to ever win the national championship with all transfers, right? Yeah. So, I mean, that's very hard to do. They figured out, they cracked the code. The biggest problem with this era is, how do you win with just transfers if that's all you can win? There's going to be years where, like West Virginia last year in football, we had 40 seniors on the football team because of the way the first year set up for Rich Rod, right? You come into December, you get no portal, the first portal window was closed when they had 2 last year, and the high school recruiting's donezo by December. So you've got one window to build that thing out of, so you get 40 seniors. You're going to have years like that. And I think that's kind of what happened here. So the rumors started surfacing to May and Dallas Mavericks, obviously, as the rumors escalated quickly and created panic among Michigan fans, to put it lightly. It was everywhere. The fans immediately began criticizing Manuel again, asking, are we a serious program here? Are we going to lose another major coach? Like, how can we not keep stability? Why does this keep happening? Is there something about our athletic department that's driving coaches away? Because even though May hadn't left yet, it was like deja vu for Michigan fans all over again. The existence of these rumors were repugnant to them, right? So, some people said that Manuel did a good job for hiring May in the first place. Can I get some credit for that? May became an NBA candidate because he succeeded at Michigan. And there's nothing that Manuel can do about that. And you can't prevent professional teams from calling your coach. You can't just stand in the way and say, nope, you're not talking to my friend. So it's about
That's what Boston College football did after 2008 with Jeff Jagodinski. And guess what happened then? They've been a disaster ever since. So
right.
Don't do what Boston College football did, ladies and gentlemen.
This is about optics to me. Right? This is all about optics and how it looks. Is this about how he does his job? Is this about how he goes about doing the athletic director position? Is he hiring bad coaches? Is he, firing good coaches? Is he giving out bad contracts? I don't see it. This is giving you my opinion, Jackson. I want you to keep yours the same as it was. I want you to tell me why you think he's a dumbass, because I'm not. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying if I'm going to argue on the other side of this, I would just say that, I mean, he's been tossed like Rim Baker's a great example, right?
Yeah.
I could read off the things that Rim Baker's dealt with, and you could easily criticize him and say, wow, he's been a pretty rough athletic director. Bob Huggins goes through a scandal. Neil Brown gets fired. Darren DeVries leaves and goes to Indiana. Like, he's had very similar situations happen. A West Virginia fan may be the best positioned person to talk about this because I can go through them real quick. Bob Huggins gets fired, and we had the number one portal class in the country. Number one, you hire an interim coach instead of getting John Beilein, who was rumored to be the guy for in a 1 or 2 year window. Doesn't happen. You hire Josh Eilert, the interim, who was a Huggins guy. All of a sudden, Jose Perez can't play. Omar Silverio doesn't get his waiver. You have to go to court to try to get other guys ready. And the season ends up being a disaster, one of the worst in school history. All right, so you got to let go Eilert. You bring in DeVries. DeVries stays 1 year. You almost get to the tournament. You can see potential for the future, and he bounces for Indiana. Dawn Plitzawhite, you bring her in. She's a great coach. You get her in for 1 year. You go to the tournament, and boom, she heads to Minnesota. 1 year. This stuff happens in college coaching. It just does. And sometimes it happens to the same AD. The Neil Brown extension is another thing. Neil Brown had one winning season at West Virginia that was worth the crap. But right before that, obviously, Neil Brown got an extension. Or maybe it was right after the 9-win season. I have to go back and look. But, that turned out to be a bad idea. Yeah. I think it was after 2022, potentially. I have to go back and look at when the extension happened. The fact that Neil Brown got the extension, a lot of people have problems with. And obviously we see what happened there. And so Neil Brown gets fired. You bring in Rich Rod, you have a rough first year, 4-8, right? Point is these things do happen. And
True.
Everything would tell you that Rim Baker may be the best athletic director in the sport, right? I mean, he's definitely in the conversation. So considering what he's done at West Virginia from a revenue standpoint, putting us in the top tier of the Big 12, I'm not trying to make this about West Virginia. I'm just saying Rim Baker has been handed a shitstorm at West Virginia, absolute shitstorm. One of the worst in the country, if definitely one of the 2 or 3 worst in the country over the last 5 or 6 years with everything he's had to deal with. And I haven't even named half of it. I mean, think about that Bob Huggins situation. He gets drunk, drives at a Taylor Swift concert, or he goes by a Taylor Swift concert that just happens to be happening. And that's the reason he's getting trapped, because he can't figure out the way through traffic drunk during the Taylor Swift concert. Like, it's just crazy, right? And he's supposed to be in Columbus at the time, and I love Hugs with all my heart. I'm just saying, from a Rim Baker standpoint, that's a nightmare, right? Like, Huggins has well paid for those mistakes, but
because I mean, like, that was saying about like Rim Baker and how he handled that situation. Because he's like, I love what you've done for West Virginia. I mean, I love what you do for the basketball team, but I can't overlook this. I mean, I can't.
Right. Obviously, there was obviously the words that were said, which you won't repeat, but there was the words that were said, on the radio that were rough for a lot of people's standpoint, relating religion to a belief like that. So I get it. Like, people were really upset with him, especially in the Catholic community, and I understand why they were. So he did himself no favors there. Anyways, as far as Warde Manuel goes, I can sympathize with him a little bit because of all these scandals he's been given. Are they happening as a result of his negligence, or are they happening because things just happen to ADs like that you can't control? I don't know the answer to that, Jackson. Have I changed your mind on him at all, or do you still feel like, nope, he's a dumbass?
I still think he's a dumbass. Like, you let John Beilein go to the Cavs, like, because that was the thing though, because prior to Dustin May, Beilein was the last coach. Beilein was the last coach in college to leave for an NBA head coaching job. And I'm not saying going for Boynton is automatically wrong, but I mean, if you're having him on as your interim coach, that's fine. But if you're having him as your head coach, I don't think it's going to end well. Here's why. I mean, his 51-75 record, a 405 winning percentage. That's not good. I mean, if you're just doing it for short-term stability, okay. But if you're doing it for the long term, if you're doing this for like the next 5 years, I don't think that's going to end well. You have a chance to get Billy Donovan. He's sitting right there. He's not going anywhere. Get him now while the iron is hot.
It's got to be a two-way street there, though.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, does Billy Donovan want the job? Has anybody said that? I mean, there's got to be a two-way street. It's just like West Virginia. We wanted Nick Saban. He's from West Virginia.
Yeah.
Like, you know, but it had to be a two-way street. Like Pat McAfee tried, I promise. We tried to get Nick Saban in Morgantown. Number one, I don't think we had enough money for him to spend in NIL to be satisfied, knowing what it takes to win. Number two, it'd be a hard job to win at. It is a hard job to win at. We get that. It's unique. There's no home recruiting ground. Obviously, if you pick Nick Saban in West Virginia, I do think he would have won and won big. I do think that. But either way, you know, just it's got to be a two-way street. Is my point here. And
but that for me, I would at least give him a call because I mean, the worst thing to do.
But I mean,
it's like asking.
Think about this though. You've got a national championship roster, right?
Right.
And that's kind of this actually brings us into our next topic here. We can go ahead and get into it. Quick 4-second break just to break through, so we'll know where to put the bumper for the ad audio. But there's a break in the action, so we'll know to put the bumper between first and second segment. We'll get there after the break. Michigan's actually not going to lose any players. I know it sounds crazy, but they found a loophole. We'll talk about it next. All right, so it's segment 2, and I got to be honest, man. I was really crazily surprised when I looked at the situation around Michigan because they found a loophole, Jackson.
Yeah.
This is a more fun segment because it's new information, and it sounds crazy, but I mean, Dusty leaves, right?
Yeah.
Michigan hires Boynton. The portal opens in 5 days. There was a roster chaos, supposed to be roster chaos in Michigan because everybody's going to be looking at those players to try to poach them. Everybody. There's probably no way they keep them all. They might keep most of them because they're very wealthy themselves. But, like, at the end of the day, a few of those guys were probably going to jump. You lost your coach that you came there for. I don't know this. I'm not in the building. But I mean, it would take a Herculean effort to keep everybody because people are going to be dropping some big dollars on some of those players that it would be hard for them to say no to, right? Especially after your coach just left. So everybody was panicking. That was the reporting on Sunday and Monday. Michigan doesn't name Boynton the permanent coach. They name him the interim head coach. There's a huge difference. Yeah. He's the head coach in the interim, obviously. Because he is interim, coaching change transfer window doesn't trigger. So instead, it's crazy to think, but like they're going to have to wait 31 days before a special portal window opens. That means there's no immediate mass exodus, and they have time to. I heard somebody say hold them hostage, but they're going to have time to, basically they're going to have time to try to convince them to stay and let the emotions die down. It's a brilliant move when you think about it.
Well, yeah,
keeping a championship roster together. Yes, you may be missing out on a. Let me finish this thought real quick, Jackson. I'll let you go. You may be missing out on a great coach, and that's a great point. You don't want to. I always say you never want to lose a coach for a player in almost every scenario, unless you're like in the NBA, where the players just matter so much more. But in college, the coaches matter a lot. So, but there's no 5-day countdown, and there's no roster raid going to happen at this point. And we'll go through the names: Elliot Cadeau, Trey McKinney, J.P. Estrella, LJ. I mean, guys, they've got a litany of players, and that's not even counting some of their bench guys, the elite national championship contending team. And the big question everybody's asking is, did Michigan do this intentionally? Boynton is not. If he's permanent, the portal opens immediately. If he's interim, they get a month. They get a month to get some NIL funds together potentially. They get a month to maybe recruit some replacements if they have to. Even maybe internationally. I don't know what options are out there. Probably none. But, it gives them a month for some relationship building, like I said, between Boynton and the players and to cool off. But because you got a championship roster, Jackson, like, to me, I think is he the interim coach? Yes. I think Warde Manuel had just played the trump card here and bought Michigan 31 days to keep a national title team together. And if that's what happened, I'm sorry. It may be one of the smartest plays I've seen an AD make.
31 days. I mean, like 31 days from now, that's Friday, July 24th, 2026. Portal not opening for those days, man. Then you
got any thoughts on all that?
Oof. I do wonder though if it's a short-term gain, but a long-term loss. That's what I keep wondering. Like, you want to do what's good for the 2026-2027 season, but you want to make sure you've got a 5-year plan. That's what I'm wondering for the Michigan Wolverines. And after what we've been talking about tonight with Warde Manuel, I mean, I'm not saying he's the worst AD in America. I'm not saying that at all. Michigan's won a ton under him. But if you're asking me whether I'm trusting him to keep the house in order, no. I don't trust him whatsoever. And, that record that Boynton's got, I mean, 405 winning percentage. It just kind of
do. Does that beat your eyes out?
Yeah, it beats my eyes out. Like 51 and 75. That's bad. That is bad.
It's nasty.
Oh, it's nasty. It stinks.
Oh man. Cody Stovall from Lockton, Oklahoma State, he was saying, that Boynton gets a second chance. One thing about Boynton is he's an elite recruiter, and I mean capital elite. He brought several 5-star guys in over to Oklahoma State. And all that, which is not, it's not a traditional power themselves. So, he's got that rolling for him. I mean, here's another part that people aren't considering. I don't know the answer here, and maybe I can leave this out for you to interpret, those of you out there in the audience. By the way, do me a favor. If you're listening to this on X, do me a favor, come over to College Sports Insiders and hit the subscribe button. Once we get to 500, we're going to give away $100 to one of the first 500 people. So that will be proof, and it'll be posted. You have to be on either Cash App or PayPal or something like that, but we'll post proof positive. This is a new show. We've only done a couple episodes. Going pretty well, but we do need subscribers. So if you're watching this and you want potential $5 or $100, all you have to do is come over and subscribe. And what I can do is on my analytics in YouTube, I can look at everybody that's subscribed. So all I have to do is just copy all the names, paste them into like a random generator, like one of those wheels that spin around, and it'll land on a name. That's it. We can even do a couple roles. We can break it down we can even do 3. I mean, it doesn't matter to me. We can do 3 prizes if you want, Jackson. We can talk about it. We can do 100. We can do 50. We can do 20. It'd be $170 given away. I don't care to do that. But, if you want to subscribe, you're watching this, hit that. We'll do something once we get to 500. How close are we to 500 now?
Right now we are 187 subs away from that magic number 500.
Okay. So we're 187 away from that. Obviously, we've both got channels that are monetized outside of this channel that we do. I do Locked On West Virginia. He does the voice of college football, Alabama, SEC Live, as well as the Jacksonian channel, which is his own personal channel where he interviews people and does things. But point is we do a lot of content, and it's whether it's here or over there, you're going to see us, but we're going to try to be here a lot. And Troy is still a part of the show, in my opinion, even though he's not come on in a while. He's got a lot going on in life that I won't mention. But, it's going to be a spot where we're trying to find our way a little bit. We're covering some different things that we just like for now. We'll probably find more of a niche as we go, as far as to like what teams we cover as often. Because we're going to be covering BYU a lot. We're going to cover West Virginia a lot and Alabama a lot. But we're also going to cover the rest of the college landscape as well. Big stories like this in Sorsby or Gibbons. So make sure if you're into that, come check us out. We'll probably be covering your team at some point as well, and excited to do it here. So would love to see you locked on West Virginia as well, or on the Jackson's channels. But we want you here at College Sports Insiders, and you can win that money. That's all coming out of Jackson's account, by the way.
Oh man,
kidding! It's coming out of mine, but still, I'll catch up to you one day, Jackson. All right, guys, thank you for being here. Any last words on this, Jackson?
I will say, it's going to be a wild ride, regardless of what happens in Ann Arbor. But I can tell you right now, it's going to be an interesting road, especially for the Mavericks. They're going to be really happy with Dusty May. I mean, it's like the history is not on the side of college to NBA coaches, but sometimes that's why they play the games, as a wise old man named Chris Berman once said. And I can tell you right now, Michigan's got an interesting road ahead of them, whether if it's men's basketball, football, or all over the place in Ann Arbor. The good, the bad, and the ugly.
Kane Hill reposted all our stuff, by the way. That's pretty cool.
Guys,
if you get a chance to watch the most recent episode, I know a lot of you guys are West Virginia fans that are watching. If you get a chance to go watch the most recent episode of Locked on West Virginia, we talked about two prospects. One of them being Kane Hill, who I think is one of the most talented prospects that nobody in the country talks about right now. I think I would personally give him a 4-star grade. Go over there and watch it. Let me know how you feel. He's thrown for, what was the numbers on him, Jackson? Do you remember his touchdown interception?
He had 65 total touchdowns in a 2-year span. Think about that. Like that's huge. And he's not rated. Come on. That's
in Texas at the 4A level. I think he had, was it 91 touchdowns total, counting rushing, in 2 years. And 60-something 100 yards passing. It's crazy, man. But I mean, it's the film to me that matters out of that kid. Like, he's got Garrett Green. I would consider him about Garrett Green level of elusivity. Like, he's got some of that to him. He's probably got similar Garrett Green speed. But I mean, he's only a junior in high school, so going into senior. So like, he's got potential to get even bigger and stronger. And his arm is really, to me, what is the most impressive thing. It's a beautiful throwing motion. It's a beautiful follow through. It's probably just a bit more than it's your classic throwing motion. I'm trying to think of a good one. Maybe like a Nick Foles or trying to think of some pretty throwing motions that I've always liked. Actually, Brennan Sorsby, not a bad one either. Very similar to Sorsby, actually. That's a good comp for him on the field. But yeah, so he's got that really, really pretty throwing motion. And I would love you to go check him out if you get time today, because he's worth your time. Jackson, any last words here on Warde Manuel?
I will say it's going to be interesting to see what happens over the next year in another adventure with Warde Manuel as the Michigan athletic director.
100%. Got you on that, buddy. Guys, thank you for being here. I'm going to go ahead and bounce up out of here. It's getting late, 12:30 at night, so may as well go ahead and go. But like I said, if you like this channel, subscribe over here, Locked on West Virginia, or at Voice of College Football, Alabama, or SEC Live, but certainly here at College Sports Insiders, where we definitely love talking about whoever your team is every single day. And we'll see you on the next one. We'll see you probably tomorrow. I would imagine we'll get something out depending on what happens in the world of sports. But we're definitely going to be doing several episodes a week. And we'll see you then, guys, on the next one.